When it comes to performing calculations with decimal numbers, essentially the same rules apply as they do with integers or whole numbers. The problem we have is that sometimes we get confused as to how many decimal places our answer should have. Remember, place value is all important, especially when adding and subtracting. And we'll look at some tricks for how to multiply and divide when we get to those questions. So first of all, let's do this question. It wants us to add 7, 3.12 and 6.4. Now again, remembering place value is all important. The 7, the 3 and the 6 all correspond to units, so they should be in line with one another. And then remember, our decimal point will come and we can write 1, 2, and the 4 in the 6.4 is in the tenths column. So that's how we line up our numbers correctly. If in doubt, always make sure your decimal points are lining up and that your whole numbers are in the right places. And now we need to do is add, and it's exactly the same process as we'd use with whole numbers. So our answer is obviously going to have a decimal point. This 2 in the hundredths column is there on its own, so it will just give us 2, 1 and 4, give us 5, and 6 plus 3 is 9, plus the 7 gives us 16.52. So let's look at another example where we're adding decimals. 15.3, add 3.724. Notice how we've lined it up. Our units, our decimal point and our tenths columns are all in order, one on top of the other. And now we can just add as normal. So that gives me 4, 2, 3 and 7 is 10, so we carry 1. 1 and 5 is 6, add the 3 is 9, and the 1 there on its own. And don't forget to put the point in to make your answer a decimal number. Let's look at a subtraction question now. Again, if we get all the numbers in the right order with the right place values above one another, we should be fine. So we're going to subtract now 7.32 from 18.4. So remember, if they say I'm subtracting it from, that's the number that's going to go on the top. Subtract 7.32. All lined up, ready to go. Now here I don't have a number, so this is essentially 0 subtract 2. Now we can't do 0 subtract 2 in this sort of calculation, so we're going to borrow 1 here, leaving us with 3 in that column, and we bring the 1 over to now give us 10. 10 take 2 is 8. 3 take 3 is 0. Don't forget the point. 8 take 7 is 1, and 1 take 0 is 1. So it gives us 11.08. Exactly the same rules as we use for integers, but we've got that decimal point in the numbers. Let's look at multiplication, because this is now where we need some tricks in order to prevent us from making mistakes with our final answer. So let's multiply 4.21 by 2.3. Now if we could use a calculator, it'd be quite simple. We'd just put the two numbers in, multiply them, and it would give us an answer straight away. If you're not allowed to use a calculator to work out this question, you need a method that's going to work for you. So we're actually going to remove the decimal point from the numbers for a moment and just treat them as 421 times 23. Whatever method you prefer for multiplying decimal numbers. I'll use the column method. 3 times 1 is 3, 3 2s are 6, 3 4s are 12, drop a 0, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 2s are 4, 2 4s are 8. And then we add our two numbers together, so 3, 8, 6 and 9. So we perform that calculation, which we know how to do, with those integer numbers. Now let's think about what size our answer is going to be. So when we look at the numbers in our original calculation, this number had 2 decimal places, and this number had 1 decimal place. So our answer, therefore, is going to have 3 decimal places. Now let's take a look at the answer we've worked out down here. Where do we need to put the point so that that will have 3 decimal places? Well, it's going to be between the 6 and the 9. So let's put our decimal point in there then. So the trick is to work out what the answer is using whole numbers, and then think about how many decimal places your decimal answer should have, and then simply put the point back into your answer. Now, with division, we don't need to worry about taking the point out. We can still keep the point in our number, and it should still be easy enough to work out. Let's divide 31.05 by 5. So we'll put the number we're dividing into our short division box, and we're dividing, remember, by 5. So 5 into 3 doesn't go. 5 into 31, well, that goes 6 times. Remainder 1. Now don't forget here that our point needs to come up there into our answer as well, so that when we get our answer, it will be a decimal number. And then we carry on as normal. 5 into 10 goes twice. 5 into 5 goes once. So our answer then, obviously we don't put the 0 in front of the 6 in our final answer, would be 6.21. Now what we need to do is to have a look at what happens when we divide numbers by a number between 0 and 1. Because this can be tricky, especially when you don't have a calculator to work out the answer for you. A question such as 30 divided by 0.6 may appear on a non-calculator paper, so the following method may help to find the answer. Multiply both numbers by the appropriate power of 10, so for example 10, 100 or 1000 and so on, to eliminate the decimal point. This then leaves us with whole numbers. So in this case we'd multiply by 10, that would give us a sum of 300 divided by 6, which is 50. And the answer to that sum is the same as it would be for 30 divided by 0.6. Right, so we saw there a little technique that we can use to help making dividing by numbers between 0 and 1 that bit easier. So let's put it into practice now with a couple of examples. The first one we'll do is to divide 14.4 by 0.2. Now it really is one of the quickest ways of solving this, to get rid of those decimal points and then work out the answer that way. So here, in order to get rid of the decimal points, we want to multiply everything by 10, which would give us a sum of 144 divided by 2. And that's obviously a much easier calculation to work out. And remember, the answer to this calculation will be the same as this one, because we've multiplied everything by the same number. So the sum has stayed in proportion. And 144 divided by 2 is 72. So we know that 14.4 divided by 0.2 is also 72. If we do this on another question now, divide 55.8 by 0.09. Now remember, it's always linked into this number we're dividing by. It's this that we want to make a whole number rather than a decimal. So what have we got to multiply here? Well, in order to get this to be a whole number, we'd multiply it by 100. And whatever we've done to this one, we also have to do to this. So the 55.8 times 100 gives me 5,580. And now I'll be dividing by 9 instead of 0.09. And this is obviously a sum that I can now do much easier than this one. So whatever method you use, let's get 5580 in the box, and we're dividing by 9. So 9 into 5 doesn't go. 9 into 55, well, that goes 6 times, remainder 1. 9 into 18 goes twice, and 9 into 0, well, that goes 0 times. So that gives me an answer of 620. So the answer to this is also 620, which makes sense when you think about it, because what this sum tells us is how many 0.09s there are in 55.8. And obviously there's going to be a great deal of them. In fact, there's 620 of them.